No, the title of this video was not clickbait. I promise you, we're going to be talking about the best zone in Madden 25. Okay, so it was kind of clickbait, but not really, because the concept is that this is a zone, but it's really a match coverage zone, which means it locks into man-to-man on some of the most problematic routes in the game. We're going to be talking about why the seam flat is the best adjustment to stop corner routes and zig patterns, which are probably the two most commonly thrown routes in Madden. So make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the channel. Hope you guys are having a great start to your 2025. I appreciate all the support. Make sure you guys hit the notification bell so you're notified of all the uploads here on the channel. And if you guys want more, make sure you guys check out Gridiron Game Plans. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, the seam flat is a zone that you guys are going to find in the cover 3 match family. So if you guys want one of these on the fly, the easiest way to go about it is just to go into concept, go to cover 3, and you're going to see any of these plays where the purple zone is actually more of a light pinkish hue. That is a seam flat. So you take a look here, you've got cover 3 buzz seam, cover 3 seam, this other cover 3 seam in another formation, cover 3 buzz match. As long as they're pinkish in tone, this is going to be a zone that can stop a zig or a corner route. Another pro tip on this is that every single cover 3 blitz in the game is actually a matching cover 3 as well. So if I were to go into, for instance, the overload 3 seam, you see that those are stock equipped on players. One other thing of note that I will mention before we get into the breakdown is that you don't necessarily have to call a cover 3 match play to get access to a seam flat. There are a few positions on the field that will allow you to get this adjustment. So the first one is a slot corner. You see right here that we are in the nickel 3-3 over. This left slot is a corner. The other slot is a safety. Now, you can also sub safeties at corner to create a big nickel package, which is what the case is here. But the nickel corner position, if you hit up on the left analog stick on the adjustment menu, will get you a seam flat. So if you guys are ever in a cover 2 and you're like, you know what, I think he's going to throw a zig or a corner route, you guys can add one of these into your defense and it will play the rules of that zone appropriately for what we're going to break down here in a moment. Okay. The other positions on the field that allow you to do this are edge rushers. So in a 4-3, that would be your defensive end, and your 3-4, that would be your outside linebacker. So you have the ability to put your outside linebackers or your edge rushers into these as well. And they'll do a pretty darn good job. And what I mean by that is if I were to go ahead and throw a zig right here, you'll see that Julius Peppers is going to drop off that line and drop to the outside. And you see right there that he about picked that off. If I had a pick artist or a lurk artist, that would have been an interception. So that's a really cool adjustment that you can make as well. So outside linebackers, defensive ends, and slot corners can all play seam flats. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes here of this breakdown. Zig routes and corner routes. You're going to find these in the cover 3 matches I've already said a few times here, but the seam flat has a specific leverage that it's going to play and a specific player that it's going to play based off of the offensive formation. If you guys can count from the outside to the inside, the second receiving option is going to be the player that the seam flat is going to relate to. This means that on the left, that's going to be our slot receiver, Luke McCaffrey. And on the right, that's actually going to be our tight end, Njoku. Now, if I were to motion in this formation, my running back out to say the right, he would become the new second receiver, numbering from outside to inside. So he would be the one that the seam flat on the right would relate to. But that's just something that you guys need to pay attention to. If your opponents use motion, that's something that can kind of make the seam flat play a different receiver. So be on top of that as you play through this. But what we're going to do here is we're going to set up this corner route. The seam flat is going to play an outside leverage. And the reason for that is that in a cover 3 match defense, the help in the form of the safety is to the inside. So they're going to play outside knowing where their help is in the form of the safety up top and the hooks in the middle. So this does a really good job at really shutting down any outbreaking pattern from the number 2 receiver. So let's go ahead and start with the corner route. I'm going to throw this to McCaffrey here. And you're going to see that the seam flat does a really good job at staying in the hip pocket, outside technique, and we're able to throw that, or really able to pick that throw, because we're talking about this from the defensive point of view. So pretty easy to shut down a corner route. Now, if I were to do this to the right side to the tight end, you're going to see the same behavior from that seam flat. I may have just referred to the seam flat as a quarter flat. Please bear with me. I've been a cover 4 match guy for like 5 years. And this year I'm running a lot of cover 3 match, but you're going to see that this is the same drill. We have Njoku breaking to the corner, and that guy is going to play in a really good spot to be able to shut that down. Now, one thing that can improve the success of a seam flat is going to be the man coverage rating. This is zone, but it's man if it needs to be. And for the purpose of defending your corner routes, it is activating man-to-man coverage. So the reason I started off with this is I wanted to show you the ratings of Jair Brown. You see that on my team, he's going to come in with a man coverage rating of 94. That's not bad, but the higher the better. So if you guys can try to get yourself, a true man coverage corner on this, you're going to notice better results. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to run the exact same thing, and I'm going to put in Rondé Barber, who's got a little bit more man-to-man coverage. And we're going to work that same corner route against Barber. So we're going to put McCaffrey on this corner. And you're going to see that Barber's going to stick to this a little bit better than Jair did. Jair did a fine job, don't get me wrong. But obviously when you convert from zone into man within match coverage, it's going to utilize your man coverage rating. That's a frequently asked question I get all the time. Hey, Zan, what matters most in match coverage, zone or man? Technically both, but for the important routes, probably the man-to-man, because you want to match a post. You want to match a corner route. Those guys have turned into man-to-man, so you want man-to-man corners to play match. But as I mentioned, it's not just corner routes that a seam flat will do a good job of. Let's talk about the zig. This is the #1 check down pattern in Madden. Everybody and their dog comes out, runs their routes, and their check down is the zig. And this is a great zone. Rather, in this case, it's going to be a zone that's going to be able to play this route because, again, that outside leverage. So you see that this whip route works right into Rondé Barber. How many times have you come out and run, a purple zone, for instance? Let's say that we have just a regular curl flat in a cover 3 defense, and you've had a zig route be able to get open underneath of it. I mean, this happens all the time. I mean, even for 4 yards on a 4th down and 3, that's going to be super annoying. There have been times, honestly, in this game where I've played hard flats and it's done a terrible job at taking away a zig because of that inside release that you can get right there in that window right there. This is going to be a better option for you to defend every throwing window for a zig pattern because it's going to stay on the low outside hip, but it's not going to allow them to get open in the middle of the field either. So it's never open on the pivot and it's never open on the break back to the outside. If you're running regular zone, for instance, that could be a problem. So take note right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to motion Njoku to the outside. This turns him into a slot receiver in which I can turn zig routes on. So I'm going to try to throw this against the other one. And you see right here that, again, same deal on the other side of the field as Kirby Joseph in his seam flat is able to take away this route so routinely. So the seam flat, whether or not you want to run cover 3 match, this is a great way to neutralize the second receiving option from the outside numbering inside on any route that breaks outside. Corners and zigs are the 2 most popular, but obviously if your opponent's throwing deep out routes or, flat routes, nobody's going to throw a flat route, but you guys get the gist here. This is a very, very important counter that you can use. And again, you don't have to run cover 3 match. As I've said, if you are just ever out there running a cover 2 and your opponent is going to throw a smoke route if you leave that cloud flat on the field, but they have a corner route over the top, this is a very common cover 2 beating concept. It's called smash. And it's especially useful if somebody motions over or has a tight end that can hold that safety on the left side. Well, if you're ever worried about that, go ahead and play a hard flat and a seam flat and watch what happens to our smash combo. You're going to see right here, the seam flat is going to completely shut down this corner route. It allows you to play a better version of cover 2. Now, again, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect because if you guess within a defense and, normally in a cover 2, this would be a hook on the left side and you change it to a seam flat, well, you're going to run into some issues if that player doesn't run a vertical or an outbreaking route. So let's say, for instance, we got a mesh. A lot of times that hook that would normally be there is going to be dropping to the outside. And you see right there, we can scamper up the field. So it doesn't come without some issues, but that's where gridirongameplans.gg comes into the equation. I've been mastering match coverages for many, many years. We're talking 2019 when match coverage cover 4 came into the game. This year, I've been breaking down a ton of cover 4 and cover 3 match content, and I am firmly in the belief that this is the best defense in the game. You can learn the ins and outs of cover 3 match and insert them into my 1-4 defensive game plan with a lot of blitz breakdowns from site contributor Medic for just $9.95. You unlock everything on the website. So that's well over 130 vault tips, all offensive and defensive game plans, members only Discord access. And you guys could even bundle college football, which is on a resurgent path right now, for an additional $5. So you can get everything, 2 games, weekly updates for just $14.95 a month. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'm gonna get up out of here. Check the link in the description. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.